Mind-blowing climate change predictions, what they got right, and how it impacts us today. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard of climate change. Commonly confused with global warming, climate change is the change in the average weather patterns over a very long time. These changes also affect the surface of the Earth, including landmasses, oceans, and ice. It's safe to say that climate change is a very, very big problem, yet so many of Earth's citizens know so little about it. In light of this, it's important to stay informed on the issues and do what we can to help prevent it. The Earth's climate has changed before, and it's just part of a natural cycle. Despite several changes, the Earth's climate has never changed so quickly. Because the climate has been proven to be sensitive to whatever pushes it to change, in this case human activity, the fact that it has changed in the past is further proof that humans are altering it now. The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is at its greatest point in 800,000 years. We're on the path to exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming. The countries who supported the Paris Agreement set an ambitious goal to limit global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius in 2015. The most recent IPCC assessment clearly illustrates how challenging it will be for the globe to stay below that limit unless emissions are dramatically reduced in the very near future. The paper simulates 5 future emissions scenarios ranging from extremely high to very low emissions, and expects global surfaces to warm by at least 1.5 degrees Celsius in each scenario. Of the emissions scenarios modeled, only the very low emissions scenario estimated that the world would see less than 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming by the end of the 21st century. In that scenario, temperatures will overshoot 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming between 2041 and 2060, before returning to 1.4 degrees Celsius of warming by the end of the century. This scenario would require the world to reduce its emissions with almost immediate effect dramatically. Based on current emissions, the world is likely to hit between 2.7 degrees Celsius and 3.1 degrees Celsius of warming by 2100. 1/3 of the most precious habitats are under threat. Vulnerable ecosystems are threatened by climate change, with the IUCN warning that 83 to 252 Natural World Heritage sites are at risk, including the Pantanal Conservation Area of Brazil and the Cape Floral Region Protected Areas of South Africa. The homes of more than 200 million people will be below sea level in 70 years. According to Nature Communications, 200 million people in the world, more than 3 times the United Kingdom population, will live below the tide line by the end of this century if levels continue to rise. Sea levels have risen by 178 millimeters since 1900 and are rising by 3.4 millimeters per year. They reached record highs in 2020 for the 9th consecutive year, about 91.3 millimeters higher than the 1993 average when satellite altimeter records began. Sea levels rise because heat stored in the ocean causes water to expand, while melting ice sheets and glaciers add to the water volume. China, Bangladesh, and India are particularly vulnerable to rising sea levels, coastal storm surges, and flooding, as are the Netherlands and parts of the UK. We are certain we caused it. It's beyond a shadow of a doubt that human impact has warmed the atmosphere, oceans, and land, according to the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change study from 2021. But how are we so certain? It took some time, but climate modeling is now accurate enough to forecast outcomes in the absence of human intervention. What we observe today is beyond the margin of error, proving that we have driven the change. The concept of tipping points is scary. What many don't realize about the warming of the present Earth is that once we pass a certain threshold, physics takes over. This is at least true for the ice sheets. Passing this tipping point means that the ice sheets can no longer sustain its colossal mass based on the amount it replenishes by precipitation, and begins an unstoppable and accelerating decline humans are powerless to stop. With strong mitigation, limiting global temperature rise to ideally 1.5 degrees Celsius, the levels agreed by nations administering the Paris Agreement, the ice sheets will continue to lose mass. Still, they won't pass this critical tipping point. Scientists are unsure when that tipping point may hit in the high emissions scenario, but based on the last century, it doesn't look good. Sea levels are rising faster than ever before. Sea levels rise as a result of melting glaciers and ice sheets, as well as warming oceans. Sea levels have risen more quickly since 1900 than they have in any prior century in at least the last 3,000 years, and this trend is expected to endure for a very long time. Sea level rise is already factored in to a large extent since seas take a long time to warm. Also, the global mean sea level will rise to between 2 and 3 meters above current levels over the course of the next 2,000 years if warming is kept at 1.5 degrees Celsius. This increases to 2 to 6 meters above existing levels if warming is kept to 2 degrees Celsius. Arctic sea ice is rapidly diminishing. More quickly than nearly anywhere else on the planet, the Arctic is experiencing a rise in temperature. The annual amount of Arctic sea ice decreased between 2011 and 2020, and the late summer Arctic ice was at its lowest level since at least 1850. The sea ice minimum will drop below 1 million square kilometers at least once before 2050. Under every future emissions scenario in the IPCC assessment, effectively clearing the region of all sea ice. About 15% of the typical September sea ice between 1979 and 1988 is present at this level. Changing precipitation. The water cycle will speed up as the average world temperature rises because of increased evaporation. Precipitation will increase as atmospheric water vapor increases. For every degree of global warming, the average amount of precipitation can rise by 7%, which implies that there will be a lot more rain and snow in the future, as well as a greater risk of flooding in some areas. Heavy rain events are predicted to become 1.7 times more probable and 17% more intense with a 2 degrees Celsius temperature increase. However, there won't be a uniform distribution of the changes in precipitation. Some places will receive more, while others will receive less. Regarding climate change, scientists are divided. The verdict is still out. Most experts, including many in prestigious scientific institutions, concur on 3 points. The planet is warming at an unprecedented rate. Human activity, notably the burning of fossil fuels, is the main cause of that warming, and immediate action is needed to solve this. As the Climate Institutes put it, there is consensus among scientists that the climate is being changed by human activity, in the same way that there is consensus on the existence of gravity or that the Earth is round. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed today's video and found it interesting, then make sure to leave us a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click that bell icon to always be updated with the most exciting content as soon as it's uploaded. Thanks for watching. See you again in another video.